So why should one build an immutable infrastructure? Well, I strongly believe that by having less moving parts in your infrastructure, when you have your production environment, and you actually want something that's as deterministic as possible. And this is really a very nice thing that immutable infrastructure brings to the table, because you actually know exactly what is present in each machine. By having the machines being derived of some kind of image where you then create instances, and if there's any kind of issue with those instances, you don't log in and modify them anymore, you just throw them away, create a new one and deploy the new one. And so you have really a highly deterministic process where you can guarantee that you have the same code running across all environments from development all the way to production. In terms of scalability, I think the particularly interesting part is when you start moving to the cloud, where it's very much based around an image type workflow, where if you're thinking in terms of AWS, for example, where you have auto-scaling groups, then they're able to additionally to automatically provision new instances based on an existing image. But if that image is already fully baked, so if that image already contains absolutely all the software packages you need, in the version you need them, with all the configuration files, this provisioning step is actually a lot faster and a lot more reliable, because you don't rely on the online package repository being available while the instance boots. You don't need to wait for those packages to download. You can be sure that you get the exact same version every time. So it's actually much faster and much more reliable to scale with an immutable infrastructure than it would be with a regular one. So in terms of tools, if we're going to move into the direction of immutable infrastructure in the cloud, of course I'm a little bit biased, I'll have to admit, because we do have a tool ourselves called BoxFuse that does exactly that for immutable infrastructure for JVM, Node.js and Go-based applications in the AWS cloud, but it's by all means not the only tool available. So you can also use things like Packer or Docker to create those type of images as well. We just like to think that we have a very easy, fully integrated, very fast workflow, but I think there are several ways to solve the problem. At the end of the day, you have to be able to reliably create images that you can then instantiate in the cloud. That's really the key, and as I said, there's tools like BoxFuse out there that can help you do it. So in terms of challenges, I really think the biggest is just rethinking some of the processes that you've been doing, because very often people will have their instances up and running, and then they'll go and fiddle. They'll just do the last little bit of fine-tuning by logging into the machines and changing something there. And this is not possible anymore. In those kinds of machines, you really want them to be fully immutable. It means it doesn't mean that you have a read-only file system, but you won't come in, you won't log in to modify them anymore. So you have to kind of the process of immutable infrastructure forces you to stay honest. You cannot cheat. You cannot go behind the scenes to go and modify things. You really have to create a very clean image from the start. So that's a bit of a change. And then, of course, all the state that you normally would have, you cannot have exclusively on those instances anymore, because the minute they're not needed anymore, because you deploy a new version, for example, they will be disposed of, and any kind of state that's been living on those instances will die together with the instance. So you can have some local copy, but it cannot be the only exclusive copy. So this means things like log files or things like databases and other things must be external to the instance, either in a centralized database server, centralized logging server. You can have some local caches if you want, but the primary data must be outside of the instance. And this is really a very important thing in this auto-scaling world, where basically based on the current load in the overall system, additional machines may be provisioned or existing machines may be decommissioned, and then those things are simply lost. Well, how do I feel about Codecamp? Well, let me just say, if it's my second year here, it definitely means I had fun on the first one, and I'm having a lot of fun this year as well. It's always, I really like the energy here in Yash. You meet a lot of people that are really eager to learn, eager to move forward, and very enthusiastic both about the industry and the technology, and I really enjoy coming back every single time. So it's always a pleasure here.